So the this morning's class in the new bright and airy studio, the one that now has a bigger shadow. Didn't have a shadow there before. We're going to start in a seated posture. So it's going to let ourselves settle. I think at the moment that's probably needed more for me than it is for you guys. But it's going to take a little time to open the hips out a little bit. We are going to work on the hips again today to just work on opening them out a little bit. So we have got to warm up our bodies, and then we're going to move into finally a peak pose, which is pigeon pose, which you've done before and you're familiar with. It's a slightly different version. It's called running pigeon. Although my students have decided to relabel it as funky pigeon because it feels a bit different. So you can choose to call it whatever you want. You might even use completely different words to pigeon. But it's going to be one of those poses that when you approach it, you need to make sure that you feel confident in your ankles and your knees and your hips and your lower back. You want to move very gently into the pose. And kind of just check yourself on each stage of the progression into it, that you feel comfortable in your joints and your muscles and tendons, etc. It's not one of those poses where you want to sort of grit your teeth and try and push yourself into it to see if you can get into the shape. You kind of need to really allow it to develop a little bit into the body. And we'll be holding the pose for about a minute and a half on each side, progressing into it, and you can stop at any of those stages along the line. Anyway, that's what we're going to be aiming for. Just let the breath settle, shoulders relaxed in, loosen the jaw, get a little wriggle through the neck maybe if that's a little bit tight. Paying a little bit of attention to the pelvis, trying to get that into a neutral position so it's not tilting forwards or backwards overtly. Okay, going to lean forwards in this posture and bring the palms down to the floor so we can bear some weight down through the wrists, the cat's paws. So getting a little bit of a stretch through the wrists and the forearms and into the palm of the hand as well. We'll turn the fingers out to the side. And again, just have a little bit of weight bearing down. Just starting to feel that interesting stretch down the, what we call the front side of the forearm. And then we'll turn the fingers towards ourselves, so thumbs pointing out. And that, if you haven't already felt a bit of a stretch, will probably provide you with the definite feeling that something is happening. Now let's draw the tummy muscles in to lift myself back up. So take the weight out of the hands to release and then roll them around a few times. And we'll move from there into a plank. So we'll just move the block out to the side. Untangle the legs, take one leg back at a time, give it a bit of a stretch out through the heel. And then as you lift up, press away from the floor to get the hips up to about the height of the shoulders. You press the shoulders away from the floor, get that little bit of contraction in through the belly. Press out through the heels. Head is more or less in line with the torso. And then we'll let the knees back down. We're going to try and make an effort to bring them directly underneath the hips, 90 degrees bend between the hips and the body. And then we're going to take it to Superman. So we'll tuck the toes of the left foot and lengthen that out. Lift the leg away from the floor to about the height of the hip. Keep the belly drawn in. So there's a tendency for the hips to go down. You want to draw it up a little bit. And then take the right hand away from the floor. Palm faces in. I'm going to try and stretch the heel and the fingers as far as apart from each other as possible. A little bit of stabilization in the hip and the shoulder through the core. And bring the hands back down and the leg back down to the floor, and we'll take it over to the second side. Just sliding the foot back. As you lift, try to minimize the amount of sway to the side as much as you can. Remember to keep the belly drawn in. So we don't want the spine arching or collapsing underneath. And we'll bring the hands back down, knee back down. We'll take the toe of the left foot underneath and slide that back again. And then we'll take the foot out to the side. So if you're a bit short on space, you might need to shuffle around to the right side of the mat. And take a little breath here. Make sure you're pressing into your outstretched foot, sole of the foot to the floor. And then we'll bring the hands gently back up if that feels okay in the hip to lift up. Now we're going to try and stabilize the hips. Obviously at this point one is higher than the other, so we're going to try and drop the left hip down to the floor a little bit. There's a little bit of pull on these internal core muscles. And then once we feel we've got it as balanced as we can, we'll take the right hand up, palm facing out to the left side, and ease into a side bend. Doesn't have to be big, just enough so you can start to feel it. You might feel it down the side of the body or in the groin. So if you're feeling it in the groin, it's more the psoas, iliopsoas muscle that's getting a stretch that wraps underneath and pulls into the front of the groin. Slowly bring ourselves back out. Down to the floor carefully. We'll slide the foot along the floor. Bring the knee back in. Just that moment in all fours as we slide the opposite leg out. Take a little time. Make sure the sole of the foot is to the floor. Give a little chance for the hip and the groin to open. So already starting to press the outstretched hip down towards the floor a little bit. Get that bigger stretch through the adductors. And then we'll walk the fingers in again. Lifting up. So again, we'll just take a little time to stabilize the hips. So when we do that, you're probably getting a 1/4 inch drop in there, I guess. When you're ready, you can keep the hand on the hip or take it out along the side. It's really kind of your choice. You take that left hand up and stretch that up and over. Getting a little bend, doesn't have to be big. Bring ourselves back down. Come back down to all fours and make our way to the front of the mat on all fours so we can begin cat-cow. So when you're ready, start to draw the chest forwards, rolling the shoulders back, tilting the pelvis up, and then drawing the spine in towards the ceiling. Inhaling through. Now come back into neutral spine. Take the knees wide apart, keep the toes together, sit back into child's pose. Walking the hands out, elbows away from the ground. We'll lift right up onto the fingertips. Roll the belly in a little bit. Send the tailbone to the back of the neck. So we'll lift. We'll move into our bottoms, just taking the legs out in front of it. We'll roll immediately down to the ground. So hands behind, chin towards chest. As your head comes to the floor, walk the feet in towards the bottom. And we're going to take a figure four. So lifting the left leg up, turn the toes, bend the knee, place the ankle to the outside of the thigh, rotate that left knee as far to the front of the mat as we can, lift up on the toes of the right foot, draw the right leg in towards the body, and then take your left hand through and your right hand around to interlace either the shin or the back of the thigh. And still going to use a little bit of strength in that right leg to draw the left hip and leg closer in towards the body. At the same time, you're trying to press the left hip and left knee a little bit further away. So you can imagine that somewhere in between, you go absolutely nowhere. Release from there. Take that left leg out, give it a little stretch, bring the foot down, lift up the right leg, turn the toes out again as you exhale, just bring yourself into position, a little opening, and then lift onto the toes, the left leg draws in by itself as far as you can, and then you take the hands through and you discover whether you're going to get your shin over the back of the thigh, keeping that right foot flexed the whole time. One pushes in, one pushes out. So we're just trying to, we don't really move through the joint anymore, but we get the contraction to feel a little bit deeper across the spread of the muscle rather than just feeling it maybe in the ends or one particular place. This kind of evens out the workload. And we'll release from there. Let that leg lengthen up, a little shake out. Bring the feet back down to the floor. We're going to roll onto the right side to lift to a seated position. And you might want to use the block. I'm going to do that without the block this morning. I'm going to bring the heels in towards the groin, so I'm not crossing the ankles. If you're unable to do that, then take the feet a lot further forwards and cross at the shins. And we'll take that into a forward fold. So ease our way down. Letting the hands out. lift back up. Now, if your right foot is in front, rotate your body to the left into a twist. And if it's the other way around, then go the other way. Now we'll release back, untangle the legs, bring them in the opposite way. We kind of knew that was going to happen. Allow ourselves to come forwards again. And then when you've got as far as you can, take the hands as far forwards as possible. So you start with just letting the body kind of fold over the sides, drawing the belly in a little bit, sending the tailbone back, and then your hands forwards. Actually press the fingers into the floor and push back a little bit. So I'm not as stretched out as as my maximum would allow. My shoulders are relatively broad and away from my ears. Hands back in, and we will simply twist the opposite side to balance it out. Relax the knees towards the ground, the hips opening. Come back again to the center. Untangle the legs, lengthen them out, have a little stretching dandasana just for a few moments. Get a sense of letting the thighs move forwards, toes flexing back. Going to lift from here into tabletop and then down dog. So cross the ankles over, and bring the heels in, roll forwards, or at least get some way of moving on to all fours. And then when you're ready, tuck the toes underneath. We'll send the hips back and up into that down dog. A little walkie. We'll move the hands towards the toes, so easing into a forward fold, having the feet hip distance apart. Folding in, moving the weight, distribute evenly through the feet, and see if you can spread your toes and give them a little wriggle at the same time as you look down at them. And then we'll soften the knees, bring the hands onto the hips, and let ourselves lift up. We'll shake it all out a little bit and move ourselves up to the front of the mat. Rising with the feet about hip distance apart, we'll take the hands to the sky on the breath in. And then through the heart and exhale, forward fold. And we'll step back with the right foot, drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. We'll bring the hands onto the front thigh for this first one to lift up. Allow the arms to come out. So turning the body to the side, head looks in the same direction, and then we look out through the front fingers. Peripheral vision, just check that your front knee is over your ankle rather than collapsing in or overtly moving out, and that the toes are pointing directly forwards down the mat. Allow your back leg to press in so you can feel the quadriceps lift a little bit around the knee. Feel the groin starting to work. Bring the hands back up above the head. Inhale, nice stretch. Slowly rotate. Bring the hands back down to the floor. Take a little breath and we'll step back into plank. We'll take half plank and up dog. And then we'll move gently back to down dog. Now bring the right knee in for lunge. We'll step slowly forwards as we exhale the breath. Holding in, hands onto the hips and lift up. We'll do that to the second side. Left foot back. And dropping the heel in. Again, we bring the hands onto the thigh to lift. Open ourselves out. And look through the middle fingers from the hand. Relax the shoulders out. Stretch out through the fingertips. Feel the back of the neck. Tops of the shoulders broadening up. Hands high. Inhale towards the ceiling. Slowly lengthen out. Down to the floor. We'll step it back into plank. Move forwards for the half plank. So up dog. And back into that down dog. Draw the left knee in, bring that into the lunge. And step forwards as you exhale. And for the hips, a simple lift. Inhale high. And through the heart. Exhaling down. The right foot back into the lunge. We keep the heel pointing towards the sky. We'll lift the hands away from the floor. Test our balance. Then lift the chest a little. Take a breath. And on the exhale, lengthen the arms out. Hopefully the hands are kind of in line with the body. We're going to draw the tailbone down. Let ourselves lift the torso up. So rather than feeling like we're trying to lift the shoulders, it comes from a lot lower down, the feeling of drawing into the pose. Now bring the hands back down to the floor, step back into our plank. Take half plank, so up dog, and back into our down dog. We'll draw the right knee in to lunge into the fingertips. And exhale forwards. Hands to the hips and soft knees and flat back as ever to lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale slow and low. Left foot back. Same as we did before. The heel is high, back is stretched out. We test our balance. So if you ever find that you don't feel balanced, just bring your fingers back down and move the foot a little bit further out to the side. Then you'll lift the chest, drawing the belly in, so you activate the torso a little more. Take the hand out in front, stretch out through the fingertips and the back heel. Draw the tailbone down to lift high. Never bring the hands to the floor. There, back into the plank. Half to up dog. Down dog. Draw the left knee in. Bring that through for lunge. Step forward. Exhale out. Hands to the hips and we lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale forwards. Right foot back into the lunge. Drop the heel in. We'll come into warrior two this time. We'll bring the hands alongside the body. Lift the chest. Cartwheel the right arm up. Bring ourselves into warrior two. Now on the inhale, take the hands high and bring them back onto the inside of the front leg. Spin the back heel up towards the sky. Leg lengthens out a little bit. You're going to spin the front foot about 45 degrees out and let the knee hang out to the side. Take the left hand forwards and rotate into a twist, taking the hand behind and placing it onto your right buttock. So draw your left shoulder over to the right side. Let your left knee at the front hang out to the left. Remember to breathe. Float the arm back in, spin the foot, come back into lunge, to plank, to half plank, to up dog, to down dog. Bring that right leg into lunge. Oops. Actually came too far forwards that time, doesn't happen often. Take a little breath, step it forwards. Hands under the hips. And we'll lift up. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Just going to start with the left leg. Taking that to the back of the mat. Dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body, lift the chest. Left arm comes up. And we open. Take the hands high. The back onto the inside of this front leg. Spin the back foot out a little bit further and up towards the sky. Front foot out to the side. Let the knee hang out. Right arm lifts up. Rotate over and onto the left buttock. You're going to draw that right shoulder blade back. And you really want to work out through that back leg. So the point of having your hand on your buttock is hopefully you can feel it lift and contract a little bit. So lengthen out. You know you're actually working it. It's pretty difficult to get it to hold on. Now we'll float the hand back up, spin the front foot back into regular lunge, then into plank, half plank, to up dog, to down dog, and bring the left knee into the lunge, and step forwards, Hands onto the hips. Lift up. Inhale high. Hands to the heart. Exhale down to the floor. And take the right foot back and drop the heel in. But this time we're going to take warrior one. So we're going to take the hands forwards rather than cartwheeling and opening the body to the side. We simply lift the hands alongside the body, lift the chest off the thighs, square the hips up to the front of the mat, which means drawing your left hip back, then lengthen the arms out, draw your tailbone down. Bring the hands to the floor. Step it back into your plank. Half plank. So up dog. Down dog. And the right knee comes into the lunge. Exhale. Forwards. Hands under the hips. And we'll lengthen up. One more side. Inhale high. And through the heart. Exhale down. Left foot back and drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Lift. Draw this right thigh back a little bit. So square the hips more towards the front of the mat. Back foot has got a good purchase. Draw the hands out. Bend the tailbone down. Try and keep the chest pointing and the hips to the front of the mat. Press a little more into the outside edge of the rear foot. We'll come back down to the floor. Step to plank, to half plank, to up dog. Nice rest from down dog. We'll draw that left knee into the lunge. Press into the forward fold. Hands over the hips. Easy lift up. Draw the hands high. Then into the heart. Close the eyes. And let yourself stand. Just feel the energy moving around your body. Become aware of how your feet feel connected to the floor. Does it feel even? Does the feet feel in parallel and line? Do you feel more dominant to one leg? Just inquiring. Okay, we're going to shake that out as we open up the eyes. And we're going to move into down dog, and we're going to take some big hip circles. So I'll explain as we get into it, but the idea is that we move the knee around in a big circle to the side, and we're going to get a little bit of rotation through the hips from side to side as a consequence of that. We'll try and keep the shoulders nice and stable. Inhale high, and through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Step yourself gently back into your down dog. Allow yourself to bring your toes onto the center line of the mat. And to draw the right leg towards the sky. And bend the knee and bring the heel in towards the back. And have that foot flexed. You know, imagine that I've got a tennis ball stuck in the back of my knee, or behind, just behind my knee, that I'm going to hold on to. And I'll lift the knee as high as I can on the inhale, and on the exhale, I'm going to start to draw the knee in towards the chest. I'm going to squeeze that in as much as I can, but keep the back leg very straight and actively pressing out towards the back of the mat. Lift it up as I inhale. So you can do this and do it sort of nice and quickly, and it might look like you're doing the same, but you're getting relatively little sort of contraction in the muscle. This is definitely working into that standing leg and definitely keeping all the muscles of the lifted leg active and sharp. Come around one more time. And then bring that foot to the floor. Take a little breath. And then we'll take the left leg high. And bend the knee, flex the foot. Imagine our tennis ball. As we start to lift the knee a little higher, we get the beginnings of that twisting action through the hip. Draw the knee in, squeeze, lift, and rotate. And last time. And then we'll bring the foot down. Now we're going to walk the hands towards the toes. And ease our way back up to standing. Cool. I'm just going to move my block out of the way. So if I do need to put my foot out, nothing to worry about. And we're going to come into tree pose. So I'm going to bring the hands in towards my heart. I'm going to find an object to focus on that's not moving. Now I need to do that a little bit side on so I can see the clock. If I look around, I fool around, literally. I'm going to take the weight into my left leg, press the foot down, lift the heel on the right foot, and then turn the toes out to the side. So I'm already getting the groins to open. And slowly take the foot away from the floor and onto the side of the shin. Decide if that's the level of balance that I have today on this side at this moment, or if indeed I'm able to take it higher and bring the heel in towards the groin. That's up to you whether you keep your hands in towards your heart, or take them out to the sides or out towards the sky. Maybe if you always do one thing, experiment with something different to your normal position. Oops, lost that. And then we'll release and bring the legs back down to the ground. Okay, we'll take it to the other side. So loading into the right leg. The left heel comes onto the ankle. Take a moment to see how that feels. And if it feels good, I'll lift to the shin. Press the sole of the foot in a little bit. then decide whether I want to take it higher. And release out of that as well. Just let the legs have a little bit of a shake out. We'll move back towards the front of the mat. We're going to bring the feet together again, so a little gap for the heels. Hands in towards the heart and sink into chair. So I'm just going to start by bringing the knees over the toes. So draw the belly in a little bit. Think about the position of the hips by taking the hands just resting on the top of the hip bones. And start to sink down a little bit more, which means I need to lean forwards a little further. Moving my way down. Bring the hands off of the hips. Extending the hands out in front. Weight move into the heels a little more. Still slowly moving down. Exhale back up. Okay, we come down to the floor in preparation for our pigeon pose. So to exhale forwards. Our down dog position. Come down to the knees for the moment. Just a temporary move. Okay, I'm going to go back into my down dog. Bring my toes onto the center line again. I'm going to start with my left knee traveling to the outside of my left elbow, moving into a planky position and dropping the knee down to the floor. So, coming through, dropping the knee down. Now this point I'm quite high. I'm going to stay high, slide the back foot as far away as I can and ease the knee down to the ground. Untuck the toes. Now I want to start pressing that knee on the back leg down into the floor and pressing the shin of the front leg into the ground. Hopefully my hips are, my groin is somewhere between sort of 4 and 5, 6 inches off of the ground. Maybe it's only going to be 2. Now just check how your knee and your ankle feel at this point. We're going to see if we can draw the belly in and start to send the tailbone directly down to the floor. So we're tilting the pelvis towards the back of the mat. And as we do, we come up onto the fingertips. See how that feels. And then we're going to see if we can take the hands away from the floor. It's going to lift right up and hold with the hands just to the side of the body. So you're really going to press down through that front leg, press down through the back leg, send the tailbone down, try and keep the chest pointing forwards. And then we'll bring the hands back down to the floor. Move back into our down dog. Bring the feet back onto the center line. Just let that leg that did all the bendy work at the front, have a little stretch. And then we'll draw the right knee in, run that through to the elbow. Heel comes under, you slide down. Walk the back foot a little bit further away to untuck the toes. And we're staying a little bit of lifted off the ground, so you got that 4 to 6 inches, or maybe 3 to 6 inches. It really depends on the body. Measurement's not really important. It's just about keeping a little bit of lift. You feel that much difference in the front leg as you do this. Okay, we're going to start to draw the tailbone down. So get that tilt of the pelvis and come up onto the fingertips. Get used to the idea of taking some weight through the legs. Lifting the spine. Okay, I'm going to tilt the pelvis down all the way so we can bring the hands to the side of the body. And the more you're able to get your tailbone to point to the floor, the higher you become, the easier the sense of balance is, because you've got less weight drawing you forwards, it's more downwards. So the lift is easier. You can bring the hands to the floor now, and then move back into our down dog. And stretch out the legs again. So if you're new, lifting your bum a few inches further off the floor in pigeon pose and trying to sit upright would challenge the legs quite so much. But I did. And come into the knees again. Let feet go out to the side. Move the block in preparation towards the back of the mat. And the feet out in front. Now we're going to take a bridge pose here. And slowly peel the spine away from the floor. Lengthen the legs and the buttocks away. Roll the shoulders underneath a little more, so I get a little bit more into the chest opening, and bring the hands underneath. Interlace the hands. Press the forearms and the wrists down into the ground to try and lift the hips up and forwards a little more. Release our way back down. Taking the hands out from underneath, obviously. And then we're going to draw the knees back in towards the chest, just having the hands on top of the knees. Roll the ankles around a few times in each direction. And then I'm going to pace some circles again with my knees. Keeping this nice and soft and trying to minimize the amount of roll in the pelvis. This is more in the joint of the hip. It might not feel like you're moving as far, and that you might feel that you're restricting yourself a little bit. We're just working through the joints in a different way. We'll take them the opposite way around. Slow and steady so you can keep connected with the pelvis in a neutral position. Perfect. Bring the knees back in towards the center of the body and roll to your right side. Use your hands. Press down. Back up to sitting. Lengthen the legs out. Take a sitting on the block position. Feet come together, and we'll bring the right heel in, knee to the floor. We'll turn to square ourselves up to the front of the mat. We'll bend in the knee. Send the tailbone back, the belly in, and fold over. Yourself to take a few breaths to come down. So you can check that your foot is still pointing towards the sky. A little bit of a tendency to roll out to the side as we come forwards. Bring the hands to the floor, lift back up. Take it to the second side. Square. Flex the knee. Hands on the shins to lift up. Fold it over. We'll lift out of there as well. We'll come down to the floor and we'll use the block behind the back of the head again. So as we do normally, knees high, chin towards the chest. Use the hands for support, take the block behind. And we'll just come into a spinal twist. So taking the arms out, shimmy the hips to the right, lengthen the left leg out. Bring that right foot on top of the left thigh as we roll over gently. I'm going to use the left hand to just add a little bit of weight into that right leg, drawing it down. And try and get your shoulders relaxed down on the floor. Now release back up. Bring the feet back in, realign. Shimmy over to the left. Leg lengthens out. Left foot comes up onto the thigh and we roll it over to the right. Release again. We'll bring ourselves back into alignment, and we can simply take the feet out to the corner edges of the mat. Bring hands a little closer to the side of the body as we close the eyes. Hopefully, everything can start to settle towards the mat. Just loosening the jaw, scanning around your body to see if there's anything that needs to move or release. Wiggle just for the pleasure of wriggling. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Wrists and ankles have a little movement. Breathe a little deeper. Bring it all together into a big stretch. And then allow the legs to draw in towards your body for a final gentle hug. Yourself rolling onto your right side. Take a breath at the bottom. The exhale to lift smoothly away from the floor. Bring yourself back into sitting. Hands coming towards the heart. And take the breath in. Closing the eyes, we can drop the chin. Draw the belly to the spine to bow to the floor and seal our practice. Let the breath come back in to build the spine. Lift the head. Open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. I hope you enjoyed running pigeon, aka the funky one. See you on the mat again soon. Take care.